I speak about a lot of things. Like, for example, my last blog was on responsibility, and it took me a couple of days to write because I was like, oh, I still haven't dealt with this myself. Like, I believe everything I'm writing, but the biggest thing that I want to come off as authentic in the blog and the way I speak, because this is an ongoing thing you have to deal with.
Hi, you're listening to Sam and Em solve the world's problems.
I have a lot of problems, but Sam's doing fine.
That is correct. Today we're talking with an excellent guest. She's currently studying law and psychology.
Yeah, and she's just started a blog called A Kid with Two Homes, all about providing resources for any children or young adults or youth that are going through different family issues.
Yeah, specifically growing up with a more unconventional family unit.
Yeah, we really, really appreciated her insight and her really positive attitude to this kind of discussion, and we hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast, Bella Duncan.
Woo! Hi, Bella. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. How are you?
Good, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's so awesome to be here. How are you guys?
Yeah, doing well.
Doing really well. We'd love to get to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
What are you studying? Do you have a job? What do you do? All that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I'm currently 21 years old. I'm in my fourth year of a Bachelor of Law, Bachelor of Psychology honours. It's a 6-year degree, so not long to go, but still 2 years. I am working. I'm actually doing quite a few things. So I write articles for a brilliant startup law firm called Sprint Law. I work with autistic kids in behavioural therapy, ABA therapy specifically, and I do a bit of work for an MP as well, which is great.
That is a lot. That sounds like a lot of things. You
Also,
definitely sound busy.
6-year degree, that's a really long time.
A lot of commitment.
Have you ever had maybe I shouldn't. Have you ever had second thoughts? You're like,
yeah, look, I think when I first got into it, so I got into it through the Global Leadership Program. So I got a great ATAR. I was really proud of it, but I didn't get the ATAR to get in my course. So early entry was awesome for me. Highly recommend it to anybody listening. And I kind of thought to myself, if I can get past my first semester of law school, I will throw myself a party. Like, amazing. I'd be so proud of myself. And it's kind of been 4 years of, wow, okay, I can do this. And so it's just constantly proving to myself. So I think rather than, oh, this is too hard, it's more like, can I do this? Yes, I can.
Sounds like setting achievable goals and then...
Yeah, and taking it like one step at a time. That feels like the best way to get through law school. Like, I don't know, even my uni degree, that I feel like I should take more of an approach of that, of just one step at a time, one semester. That sounds like a good approach.
As someone who gets overwhelmed, that is a good approach.
Yeah.
What? And you mentioned the Global Leadership Program. What was that?
Yeah, so I basically applied to Macquarie University, which is where I go, and they have I think they've changed it a bit. I think it's called Leaders and Achievers now, but essentially it was kind of looking at, rather just looking at your academic achievements, it was looking at your social justice, and I was an elite athlete as well, so I was looking at my sporting achievements also, which was really cool for me because I felt like whilst I put a lot of effort into my studies, I was also putting a lot of effort into other areas of my life, and to be rewarded with a degree that I really want to study but maybe just didn't have the right fit for the HSC and this whole memory game, as I like to put it.
Yeah.
I found that, I didn't get the necessary ATAR, but I'm doing really well in my marks at uni, and I think it's just to prove that you put your mind to something and you can do it.
Yeah.
Small world. I dropped out of that uni, so twins.
What a small world.
No, but that's amazing that even if I feel like that's an inspiring message because especially studying what you're studying, that's a really impressive degree. And yeah, I love that. I think it's a good message for people who are currently maybe doing the HSC, or are they finished now?
No, they will. They're starting in like a week or something.
Oh, good news.
Oh, but by the time this goes out, they probably will have just started it.
Okay.
I think.
Yes, probably. Good luck, HSC students. You've got it.
Thinking of you a lot. So the reason that we have you on today specifically is because of your blog, A Kid with Two Homes. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely. So A Kid with Two Homes is a blog that I've recently started. The purpose of it essentially is that it's addressing divorce, separation, and family conflict. Three topics I feel like is a part of anybody's life, whether it's direct or indirect. And unfortunately, I don't think it's talked about enough. So I thought to myself, hey, what can I do about this? And I thought, let's make something really accessible like a blog and just put it out there. And I told myself, if one person reads this, that's an achievement. If 20 people read it, that's great. But I just thought, put it out there, address topics that affect, I think it's 1 in 5 Aussie kids have experienced their parents separating before the age of 18. So that's a lot of people, whether it be you or your friend. I think the purpose of the blog is really just to share those experiences so we can understand each other and, help each other kind of get through what we call life, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. And you said 1 in 5 Aussie kids. Like, that number is already so high, but then think of the amount of kids who then are impacted by that.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone at least knows someone who's been impacted by it. And like, it doesn't seem like, there are so many other causes out there, and I feel like it gets put on the back burner because it's not something that you can see immediate impacts of. But yeah, I'm glad that you've stepped up and you've taken the lead on this, or the charge on this. Why did you feel inspired or motivated to create it though? Like, why did you think that you had to do something?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with all of that, Sam. So growing up, I know that my dad was reading How to Be a Single Dad, how to be the father that you need to be to your kids. And I thought that's really cool that he can read those things. And I appreciated that he wanted to read those things. And I thought to myself, hey, I've got a really good support network, but what about kids who don't and want to read something? I always thought there's nothing out there. I know that there was a picture book at my primary school, and it was something about I have two homes, but it was kind of for like a 5-year-old, say. And then there's just this massive gap until maybe you're yourself a single parent, and then there's books for you, and that's great. But there's this gap that I was like, what if people had questions, or my biggest thing was to know that they're not alone, and they're really not. Like I said, 1 in 5 kids. But at my primary school, there was me and another girl I knew of. And then as I got older, there was obviously a few more people, but I really felt like there was nothing specifically targeting it. All my teachers, the people around me knew that I went between 2 homes, but it was just kind of a taboo but not taboo topic. That's what I've always put it. It's not taboo. We all know about it, and we do talk about it to an extent, but it's taboo in the sense that we don't address it directly.
And we don't understand it. Like, as someone who hasn't really been touched by it, it's not something my family's gone through. I don't know much about what you would experience going through it. So I have really appreciated reading your blog post to try and get more of an understanding so that, I can be more empathetic and compassionate and just understand it, because it is so common, right? Like people should just know about it and normalize it and talk about it. And yeah.
And I think that's what you guys are doing, which is awesome. Like, I'm so happy to be here and talking about it. And yeah, it's going to be something that I feel like we will talk about more, especially around kids who are now growing up. And, in school, for me, that was a tough time. Not necessarily tough, but it was a difficult time to then try to understand where I sat in comparison to other families and stuff. But my biggest thing is also that no two situations are alike. And whilst I'm sharing my experiences, these are not everybody's experience. And, your parents might be living under the same roof, but they might be separated in a sense. Or you might not know your dad, or you might not know your mom, or you might see your dad every couple weeks. And everybody's situation is very unique. And the more that we can share and we're comfortable with sharing, then the more this conversation can broaden and people can really start to empathize with how broad it is.
Yes, I love that. I feel like as everyone has, that's the thing. And that might be why it's not talked about, or why it's not addressed directly either, because it's so hard to address directly. Everyone's situation is so different. So how can you write a book for a teenager who has, my parents aren't like a normal situation either. I never met my biological father, but I've grown up with he's basically my stepdad, but they're not actually married. But but I've grown up with him. He's basically my dad. I've grown up with him since I was like 4 or 5 years old. So
I don't remember a time where he wasn't there. So
because
I was a child.
It was basically really around the time when my long-term memory was kicking in. He was around. So I've been lucky enough to have that. And if I ever like mention or it comes up that I've never met my biological dad, people are like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, why are you sorry? It doesn't make any sense. I've never met the guy, but I've had Rob there this whole time. So it's like, no, it's not an issue for me, but that's such a bizarre situation. And like, I've gained siblings out of that too. And like, so that's a really weird situation. And I don't think anyone could write a book for me specifically, but I'm glad that there's a blog like yours that I could read so thanks for doing that.
No, thanks for sharing, Sam. I mean, that's the thing there, and my situation as well, you know, we're all so different. And I think it's funny how you tell me that's a weird situation. It's like, we talk about it as weird, and I often like do that to myself. I'm like, oh, it's weird, my family like this or that, and people are like, yeah, or something that I did want to talk about today is this whole concept of a broken family, and addressing that and just the terminology that we use, which is innate to us.
Yeah, but, right when you said that, I was like, oh yeah. Is that what we should be calling it? Like, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just exploring it, and there's no right or wrong answer. I think that's one big thing I told myself of like, hey, be easy on yourself, Bella. Because I'm like, am I saying the right thing? It's like, there isn't a right answer. It's just, you know, we can share our experiences and put it out there to the world, and, you know, see if it can have some positive impact.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a perfect tie-in to our first problem, which is kind of just about your experience and how you've sort of been affected, or sort of maybe the lessons that you've gotten out of dealing with this throughout your life. Yeah. I don't know if you just want to launch straight in wherever you're comfortable.
Oh, I could write a book in it. Or a blog. Best. Okay, so my parents divorced when I was 3 years old. So I was quite young. My brother was 1. So it's me and my bro. He's the best. And my parents were together for, I believe 6 years. But yeah, so I was quite young, and ever since then I have gone between 2 homes. So the orders were that from Saturday afternoon at 4 to the afternoon after school on a Thursday, I'd be with Mum, and then Thursday after school till Saturday on 4, I'd be with Dad. So it's kind of been my life. It's always been very normal. Mum and Dad have always had a good relationship for the purpose of Cooks, and Cooks is my brother. I call him Cooks. He's named Luke. It makes no sense. But you know, we've always been the main focus, and that's been really beneficial for Luke and I believe. But they were never the best of friends. And then, you know, there was a bit of conflict, and I think I will definitely write a blog on the messenger. I often felt like I was, you know, taking a message from Dad to Mum, and it was hard for them to communicate, especially when I got a phone, or even little things, how it impacts you. It's like, I got a phone in year 4 so that, you know, I can, not necessarily because I wanted one, but, you know, and as you grow older, you gain a lot of responsibility, and you kind of grow up a bit quicker, in my experiences, which is also beneficial. But then fast forward to graduation, everything started to get a bit much for me, and I kind of was like, you know what, Mum and Dad, we need to fix this. So just a bit of context, Dad remarried and has been with his wife for 11 years now, I believe. So around graduation at our school, it was that you could only get 3 tickets. And these are little events for me that are very stressful, because it's like, who's going to come?
Right.
So I kind of just lost it. I was like, guys, you need to work it out. Like, enough is enough. So for my 18th birthday, I had both families there, which was fantastic. And then fast forward a couple more years, we all play in a basketball team on a Sunday night.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Nice.
So me, my bro, my mom, my dad's wife, my mom's partner, my boyfriend Ray, and yeah.
Nice.
And see, time heals all wounds, man. So I love that.
Right? So that's a bit of a story, but like I said, very, very unique, and it hasn't gone without its challenges and rewards. But I think it's little things that about divorce, separation, or even family conflict that affect you in adverse ways that you'd never expect. Like, I pack a bag for a Saturday on a Wednesday night. And I've done that ever since I was, in primary school.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I still, I fixated on one thing that you said there, and that's when you got a phone when you were really young, obviously, because you're the messenger, you're going between houses and that kind of thing. And it's important that you're responsible. And I remember, because my siblings had that responsibility, my stepbrother and stepsister. I was staying in the same home, so they were going between their mum and my dad as well. So, and I remember when Jess got a phone before me, and she's younger than me. For me, I thought that was so unfair, and that sucked for me. But I don't know how much she even wanted it. I'm pretty sure she really wanted a phone. But anyway, I just as someone who was on the sidelines, but still. Brought that up for me. I remember that. And at the time I was like, this is the worst. You guys suck. I'm older. Why don't I get that? And I'm sure that would have made her feel awful as well. I feel like you're just always the victim if you're going in between.
To an extent, I think, it's crazy. You would think, I want a phone. And I was like, I don't want a phone. I remember specifically turning my phone off once because I was like, I don't want to deal with this. And
it's not really, I feel like it's not fair. Like you said, you're forced to grow up. It's that's you didn't choose that. I can totally understand where you're coming from in that regard. That sucks.
But I think something so I have a fantastic relationship with both my parents. They're the best people in my eyes, but something that they've really instilled in me is that you need to focus on what you can control, and the actions of others is something that you can't control. And a theme throughout the blog is very much focusing on what you can and can't control. And I will sound like a broken record, but it's the pillar of the way I live my life, and I feel like it helps. It's a positive coping mechanism in understanding that really other people's actions are not your responsibility. It is not your fault, but you will probably have to deal with it. And it's up to you how you deal with that and how other people react to how you deal with that.
Yeah, that's a really grown-up thing to say, so I can tell that you...
Yeah. On that, do you think, you're a very positive person, so I'm sure you've thought a lot about this, but what kind of things do you spin as the benefits to having gone through this as a child? I don't know if you think growing up earlier, you did mention before that, it's a good thing in some ways, but are there things sort of like that you've definitely grown through and appreciate kind of about your experience?
Absolutely. I think at some point in everybody's life, whether it's earlier or later, we understand that communication is so important. And that's something that I learned very, very early on. And my control over my communication and trying to, encourage other people to communicate is something that was instilled in me through my experiences, I guess. Empathizing with how people might feel, if somebody's really angry at somebody else and they let it out on you, accepting that you didn't hurt them, but maybe you're going to suffer the consequence, not because they're intending to hurt you specifically, but you're just there. And I think maintenance of relationships and really valuing for its core, not for some of the adversities of a relationship, but really thinking, okay, what is this person to me and why is it so important that I put effort into them and I get that back and it's reciprocated. So without a doubt, I am so grateful for the life that I have lived, and there are positives. It's something that is really funny, I think, and a friend actually mentioned it to me is, I used to always get, that's okay, you get double Christmas presents, or that's okay, you get a phone earlier, and it's but I actually spend most of my day in the car on Christmas Day because I go to 6 different places. And it's just, opening that door to say, you know what, I do get 2 sets of Christmas presents and I'm very lucky, but it comes with that as well. And it's just ultimately up to the individual how they choose to accept that.
Nice. You mentioned really quickly in our intro sort of thing, the word comparison. And I'm actually really interested to see, while you were growing up, was comparison a big part of the way that you sort of dealt with it, looking at other families? What kind of a role did that play?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I speak about a lot of things. Like, for example, my last blog was on responsibility, and it took me a couple of days to write because I was like, oh, I still haven't dealt with this myself. Like, I believe everything I'm writing, but the biggest thing that I want to come off as authentic in the blog and the way I speak, because this is an ongoing thing you have to deal with. And the whole comparison thing, coming back to that, it's hard. Like, I'm in a really stable relationship. I've been with Ray for almost 7 years, which is fantastic. And his family is your typical quintessential family, and they're absolutely beautiful, and I treat them like my own. But yeah, comparing that and coming into a family that is so stable and unbeknown to, you know, a broken family, as some would put, you know, it's really hard to not think, oh, they get to stay up, like go to a couple places on Christmas, like lucky them. Or, you know, you try really hard not to be envious, and everything, but sometimes it's hard to not compare, or like, you know, your whole cohort is all their parents are together, or they don't forget their sports clothes at their mum's, and you do, and it's okay. It just knowing that it's okay is so important, but I have to do that every day.
Yeah.
I feel like and even knowing that it's okay and it's not your fault, no matter how many times you can repeat that to yourself when you're going through something like that. Like at the time, I feel like, you know, how helpful does it feel? Maybe not all that helpful, but yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
At least.
And I write about that. I say, let's be realistic. I still struggle with this. It's tough. But I know, and I keep telling myself, and another coping mechanism that I use is I've been writing in a diary pretty much every day since year 8. And so reflecting in itself can be like, hey, yesterday I knew it was not my fault. I feel like it's my fault today. How did I cope with it yesterday better than today? Or who can I speak to really solidify that, yeah, it's not my fault. And sometimes that might be going to the source itself. Hey, what actually happened? Or why don't you, you know, like I haven't done this particularly, but why don't you love mom? Or mom, why don't you love dad? And it's like, sometimes, like I said, communication can help.
It's tough. I can imagine. You mentioned broken family, and that kind of idea. I mean, I know, I only know from the outside. It's not my experience. So I would just love to know, like, how that term kind of feels to you, and like, yeah.
Has anyone else ever like identified yours as a broken family? Is that why you use that terminology?
Yeah, definitely. And absolute no, like I would never want somebody to feel bad because they've said it to me before or anything like that, because it's completely society's construct of what it is. But I think breaking down that stigma, and that's kind of where I'd lead this, is that it's got this negative connotation that you're broken because your family isn't together. But I would go as far as saying, in my situation, my family is not broken. I have a fantastic relationship with both my parents. We even play basketball together on a Sunday night. But, you know, you that term of broken home, and it's like, yeah, I've had experiences and maybe some challenges, but that doesn't define the person that I am. And I really think that there is a negative connotation to it sometimes, and not that people mean it, but I don't want personally, and I would imagine other people, to be categorized in an area that's like faulty, if that makes sense. It's not normal, and it's not the status quo, and that's okay to acknowledge that as well. But the term broken to me just sounds like it needs fixing. But this is a problem you can't really fix. So
yeah, you have no control over it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if someone's calling your family broken and you identify as a part of that family, you're essentially calling that person broken.
Yeah.
And that's harsh.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I don't think people necessarily mean to do that on purpose. And I'm looking back and thinking, like, I'm so glad I never had anyone say that to me. Not to my face. I never have had to deal with that. But I've never identified as broken or as a part of a broken family either.
But that's the other thing, is like, you know, like stepping away from divorce for a moment, like everybody has stuff. Everybody has issues. Everybody has stuff they have to go through. Everybody is broken, in quotation marks. Like,
but it would suck to have it being called to your face.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I don't think people should use that word. I don't think broken
especially
family
to a
is
kid.
accurate.
Imagine that. Like, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I can't, like, there are definitely times where, you know, just little things like making sure that my parents were great in the sense that like always go to parent-teacher interviews together and stuff, and it wouldn't be, if it was for Luke and I, you know, no matter what, my parents would make an effort. And again, not everybody's situation, but, you know, put on a front to say, you know, we stand by the kids, or, you know, or even if it's just your mum or just your dad, you know, your parents go, if you don't have any parents, it doesn't make you broken. And I think that's the biggest thing I stress is other people's actions are not your responsibility and they aren't your fault, even though you might feel sometimes. But ultimately that shouldn't reflect on you and the person that you can be and the person that you will become.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I feel like broken family, saying that to a kid kind of implies a level of pressure that it's like theirs to fix. And yeah, I think that's completely accurate, that it's, you can only control what you can control, and that's not one of them.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great podcast. This is Phoebe. You may remember me from episode 15 of Sam and Em Solve the World's Problems. I just want to say, I mean, what a great podcast. This conversation is just wonderful. I just could listen to these guys all day. Would you listen to these guys all day? Oh, brilliant. Well, why don't you tell your friends? Why don't you rate, review, subscribe? I mean, does it get any better than this? Why don't you write in? Ask people about your problems. Maybe we could solve them. Anyway, as I say, rate, review, subscribe. Let's go back to the episode.
Okay, so for our second problem, it's all about sort of our motivations for starting, yours for starting a blog, ours for starting a podcast potentially, if we ever get to that. So yeah, I'm interested to know why you started a blog, specifically why you started a blog as the medium for your sort of output into the world.
Yeah, so I mean, it would have been really, really cool to write a book, and I don't think that's off the pages, maybe sometime in the future. But for me, it was all about accessibility. And okay, so my goal was I want to have an impact on somebody who is experiencing something like this or wants to know how someone's dealing with it, who is experiencing it. And I want it to be beneficial to them, but it can't be beneficial to them if they're going to be a, 13-year-old kid and they really hate books. So I thought, okay, what's prominent in kind of my key audience? Social media. What are we always on? Our phones. The blog was probably the most accessible medium for this type of content. And I think it also gives it a bit of a not so serious type vibe. And, you know, it's really cool to be able to work with Wix, which has made me crazy, but it's really cool to, you know, like I've never had to design anything, but like the website and everything was really fun. But yeah, and just to be able to connect through images or through, you know, a bit more accessible. That was kind of the whole reason for the blog.
Yeah, nice. Focusing on your target audience and where they're going to be. That's definitely something we've learnt.
And conversational. Love it.
Yeah. Was there anything that kind of sparked you wanting to start this blog? Like, I don't know, it just seems a bit out of the blue for me, but I'm not very in the loop of your life. Like, yeah, where did it sort of come from?
Yeah, so I've been wanting to do this as long as I can remember. I know my dad's like, we should write a book. I'm like, yeah, great idea, Dad. But then it really got me thinking, no, like I said before, you know, there is everything out there for single parents, but there is this massive gap. And I just felt like whilst I had a good support network, there was nothing for me to read that was non-partisan to my family. And yeah, so I reckon start of high school, I was like, I need to do something. I don't know how. I don't know whether it's just going to be having a conversation with a friend. But it was, yeah, something. And I think it actually, I got back from exchange earlier this year, post-COVID, mid-COVID, sorry. And Ray took me to the beach actually. It was late one night and I was like, never told anyone about it because it's always been a bit of a funny topic with me. Not this topic, obviously, but the blog itself, putting everything out there. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to start a blog and it's going to be not dramatic, but it's going to be informative and I'm going to do it by mid-sem break semester 2. He was like, okay. And then he checked in on me and made sure that I was making progress towards it, and it was mid-sem break when I released it, and yeah, the rest is history.
Nice. Revelation on the beach.
Love those.
Best.
Did you feel like having spare time during COVID potentially helped you to get to that? I know that's definitely, I don't know that we would have started a podcast except that I had free time to start one because I lost my job. So like, yeah, was that helpful for you?
Oh, to be honest, I kind of got home and I hit the ground running. I started working again 3 jobs and I was like, and I think, like Emma was chatting to you before, this whole period has really motivated me to like, okay, I'm not overseas, so I need to do a million things at once, and that is not the answer. You need to relax and do what's right for you, etc. But I do struggle with that, and I thought, yes, it's no better time because I am very interested and a big advocate for domestic abuse, and I thought this is a really, really difficult time for people who are, at home maybe when they don't want to be, and whilst this is a bit far removed from that. It's still something that we need to talk about, and yeah, I guess there's never a right or wrong time to bring something up. But yeah, sure, I was motivated this year.
Nice.
With the blog, can you interact with anyone who might be reading it?
Mm-hmm.
There's like a forum.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a contact form on the website. You can subscribe, etc. So I send out emails every time a blog is there. But there's a contact form, and at the end of every blog, I put the link to the contact form and my email address, and my socials are connected to it as well. And I'm a very, very approachable person and would love to chat to anybody who needs help. Or and it's funny, and I've been so grateful to get a lot of response and just really, just people coming out and be like, hey, I go through this too, and thanks, or my friend's going through this, I didn't know how to help them, but now I do. So that contact form is there. Please, anybody who's listening, feel free to chat to me because I'm more than happy to talk to you.
Yeah, nice. I was going to ask about what kind of a response have you gotten so far?
Yeah, I was completely overwhelmed. I mean, like I said, if one person read it, I was going to be overwhelmed. And so it was kind of like that uni thing. If I finish one semester, I'll be so happy. But definitely a lot of friends that I know their situation, but we don't really talk about it. A really close friend of mine actually messaged me and said, when we started becoming friends, it was hard for me, but I knew I wasn't alone because you were like me in some sort of way. And it made me cry because I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And people I don't even really know that well have been messaging, oh, I'm going through this myself, or my friend's going through this, and I didn't know what to say. And now I've literally just linked your blog and I'm like, this is really nice. This is really cool.
Well, I'm so glad that you created it then.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you that you get to receive that response, and for the people who it's impacted. That's wonderful.
And I'm so grateful that we've gotten to have this opportunity to chat about it. It's not something that comes across my sort of daily life often, which I'm very blessed about that, but I am very grateful to have the opportunity to sort of learn more and grow a little bit in that. Do you have anything else you want to touch on before we move on to your problem?
One thing I did want to say was that, so for example, I've started off with the very broad topics, acceptance, responsibility, and things that can apply to quite a lot of situations, not all, but a lot of situations. And I will continue down that line for a while, but probably inspired by you guys, I think there will hit a point where my experiences can only empathize to an extent, and whilst I can sympathize, I can't say I've been in their shoes. So I think it's really important that I then elevate kind of the platform then to reflect more people's experiences, and that will be to an extent, and probably I would like, inspired by you guys, interviewing people who have experienced those particular topics, where I absolutely can imagine how they're feeling. But, the biggest thing with this blog is to be really authentic and genuine in its delivery so that people can really feel as though they are not alone. And it's not all about me. It's never been about me or my experiences. It's about the situation and how we can address it. And so opening that up to topics that don't really necessarily involve my experiences is somewhere I definitely see the blog going.
Absolutely. I don't want you to sell yourself short, though, because you're always going to be having new experiences, and I'm sure you're always going to find new things that how this particular topic, you can relate it to as well. So I feel like I'm sure you'll never run out of content and out of people to talk to about this issue.
little things. Like I always use the example of packing a bag on a Wednesday night for a sad day. I've been doing it my whole life and I hate it. It annoys me. And I actually took a photo of my car because it's always packed with bags. And that's okay. And people are like, why don't you just have 2 closets? It's like, it's harder than that. I want to wear that jumper on a Tuesday, but it's there on a Thursday.
I was thinking about that actually as you were saying that. I was like, you would literally, I couldn't just have 2 wardrobes. I'd have to take clothes with me because I'm really attached to some things and they would just have to be worn on specific days. And like, yeah, that'd be so difficult.
Yeah. Makeup, face wash. Like, oh my God, my parents are fantastic. My dad's always like, I'll buy you 2 of everything. It's like, but I don't want you, like, thank you so much. You're the best. But yeah, sometimes it's like, you know, that's just something that you've got to, you do. And it might not be for everybody, but, you know, little things like I'm on too many care cards. That's cool too. Yeah, just normalizing it.
Yeah.
This is not, it's not the status quo, no. And I will never say that it's, you know, everybody should get divorced and it's great, but because it's not. Like I would absolutely love my family to have stayed together, but it is what it is, and really focusing on what we can and can't control and how we can propel. I'm talking from a kid perspective, propel our lives forward and really, you know, maintain the relationships that we can. But let us have a bit of, you know, this is how things have been, this is where I want to go, and this is what I want to do with my life.
And that's the thing too. You have to take the good with the bad, right? Because like if your parents didn't get divorced, you wouldn't have met some, I'm sure, amazing people that you have met now. And that's the same for me. I wouldn't have my brother or my sister, who I love very much. Like that would be devastating. Now.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah.
I actually sorry, you go.
Oh, no, like just back on that, with relationships, like my grandparents have been pivotal to my life, both sides. I'm so fortunate to have them. And I could cry thinking about them. They're just my absolute world, but they looked after us, constantly, and maybe they probably will if they were together, but I like to think, you know, so many things have eventuated, especially relationships, which I think is the core of humans, are our relationships with each other. And yeah, it's been really nice to form those.
Do you think your relationship with Ray has been shaped by the way that you've sort of seen your parents' relationship?
I'm really glad you asked that, Em. So I remember back in the days of, do you remember Ask FM?
Yes.
No,
yes.
That anonymous website where people would just like bully other people.
What?
Yeah, horrible.
You had
horrible stuff.
You had a you just like had your own page and people could just anonymously ask you questions or send you like things onto your page being like, you suck, or like, have you kissed a boy before? Like,
oh, so like people you know.
Yeah, but they would do it anonymously.
So
it'd be like
it's
people,
like the
you'd
opposite.
share it on your Instagram or your Facebook or whatever, and everybody you know would go on and ask you questions anonymously.
Can't believe that. So I say to myself. Anyways, it does come good somehow.
Okay.
So somebody asked me what, I think you used to get like questions from Ask FM themselves just so you had questions, and it was like, what is something that you would never do or something? And I posted like, I would never marry somebody and put my kids through a divorce. And I was astonished with the amount of likes that got. And that actually was one of the first times where I was like, I'm not alone. People can empathize with this. This is cool. So premised on that, like I said, I've been with Raymond for almost 7 years, which is mental. And he's a fantastic person and my best mate. But yeah, it's constantly reaffirming to myself that my experiences don't define my relationships now, especially. You know, trust and dependence is unique to your different relationships. And Ray being Ray has been fantastic in proving that to me time and time again. But really, even introducing Ray to my family, hey, this is one side of my family, this is the other side of my family, and these are the different people that you need to meet, and just him. And I think this is something that you don't necessarily expect from people, but you are very grateful when they just accept your situation, and they normalize it in their world, so you don't feel weird about it. And just constantly reminding yourself that your experiences or what you have experienced with other people's relationship won't necessarily be your relationships in the future. And, you know, just communicating to the person, hey, I'm not feeling good. I don't like the fact that, you know, there's a potential that And there is potential always that, we might get married, have kids, and then you don't want to be with me. And that's not necessarily how I feel, but it's really important that you communicate to the person that you're with, so you don't fight about silly things. You get to the point and you say, hey, these are my experiences and it worries me, and they can communicate back to you however they see fit. Communication is key.
Yeah, nice. That would make a great blog post, I reckon, on just how to not put pressure on your relationship from that kind of perspective.
For sure.
I would definitely read the hell out of that. I mean, I read all of them, but yeah, it'd be really interesting.
I think one other thing is, like, sometimes I read it back and I'm like, even if mum and dad weren't together, or I can apply a lot of these things to my everyday life.
Even just you talking about like what you can and can't control, that is literally something I have learned this year. Like, I'm trying to focus in my own life just about what I can control. Like, awesome. I think it's all super applicable to everyday life.
I feel like some things you just have to keep relearning too.
Yeah.
You might learn it again soon.
I'll probably need to.
Yeah. I always say that. So, let's be realistic. I have to accept and re-accept and then re-accept again and then continue to accept it. Like, it's not a means to an end. It's not a one-time fix thing. Mm-hmm. Nothing in life for that matter, I believe.
Sometimes emotionals just don't be rational.
Yep. Ain't that the truth? All right. Shall we move on to your problem for us?
How do I speak to a stranger without engaging small talk?
I'm out.
That's what small talk is.
You're great at this. You and Courtney are amazing at this.
Are we?
You just start talking to people and I just hide in the shadows and wait for it to be comfortable enough for me to jump in.
Well, I don't know how often I do it. I know Courtney is phenomenal at it. Maybe we get her back on and talk about it. But I feel like this one for me is an entirely fake it till you make it construct type
I
thing.
actually live for small talk. I don't know what the thing about not enjoying small talk is, because I'm happy to just make conversation with you and I don't want to share anything personal. So I'll talk to my hairdresser about the jumper that I bought and where it's from. Like,
Bella, where's the rush?
Yeah, do you want to get to know them more, like quicker, or like?
I personally see, and that for me, this is very subjective, but talking about your jumper is something really different to what do you study? What's your name?
Yeah.
How old are you? That's what I'm thinking. So I meet somebody and I'm like, I don't want to tell them I study with you. It's not important.
Yeah. How do we have meaningful conversation with a stranger?
Maybe my only experience of that I can remember of recent is literally jumping straight to my hairdresser, meeting her for the first time, and she's like, wow, I love your jumper. And I feel like maybe compliments are a good way in.
That's cool. Yeah, good idea.
But again,
what if you hate them?
What if you hate them as a person?
Remember when I hated you back in? I don't know. I just find it amusing.
No, I think that's a good one. I think leading with a compliment is always good. But because that's what I guess conversation to me about. If you're trying to make a friend, then finding mutual interests. If you I love your jumper, where'd you get it kind of thing, then but that's exactly what small talk is. Small talk is leading to big talk.
Yeah.
I feel embrace it.
Yeah, I guess. But I picture this world, and it's a bit funny, but I picture this world where you go up to somebody and you're like, do you sit or stand in the shower? What music do you listen to?
I would hate that. I'd be like, I'd actually prefer to sit in silence than to talk about that.
That's
sitting
so
or standing
funny.
in the shower.
Well, I mean, that's not that big a deal. Also, who sits? Who sits?
I knew this was going to be a thing. I got told not to say this, but I just lead with it. I think it's a funny conversation. Now this conversation is a good conversation.
True. Okay, maybe it's the perfect icebreaker then, because then you can both just be like, I don't know, somebody just ran to ask me that. I didn't just think of that question. I agree with you. Who sits?
That's cool.
This is hard. I don't know.
I like that. Even through this talk, we're not talking small talk. When I say small talk, I mean what do you do for work? Instead of asking what you do for work, you should be like, what do you enjoy?
Yeah.
Next time, just go, hey, your parents divorced, and is God
do you
dead?
Have 2 homes?
I feel I still want to talk about the aversion to small talk, because I totally understand. Whilst I've said it's not a big deal, it is. I totally understand where you're coming from. I feel particularly in a corporate environment, you can't avoid it. And
maybe it's just because I haven't experienced it a lot recently because I haven't
it's
really
always the
gone
same
anywhere.
thing. What'd you do on the weekend? Oh, who cares, man? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. And that's one of the main things. I don't even, it's not in the archives. It's Monday
Maybe
morning.
if you like try to ask, like even if they open with like a small talky question, your next thing is like very stand up, sit down in the shower-esque. Like if you try to push it to not be small.
And I think the compliment thing was cool.
Okay, well then I'll stick with that as my answer.
Or like just having a reason to approach someone in the first place. I don't know. Like, if you talk about being authentic, if the reason is like, I really want to make a friend today and this person looks cool, I feel like you just like be out and honest with that in the get-go. Like, first of all, why do they look cool? You tell them and then you just...
Yeah, but so you don't mean just like walk up, be like, hey, I'm looking to make a friend. You in? Like, that would not work.
I read this book and it was called Never Split the Difference, and that's actually about negotiating. But one of the things is about labeling something. So like if you've got an issue, you just label it, be like, hey, you must be really angry with me. So label it, go up to the person and be like, I want to make a friend today and I've chosen you. And they'll probably be like, I'm going to leave now. I don't know, maybe you'll meet your best friend like that. That's cool.
Yeah. That would be quite the origin story of a friendship, I think.
I feel like we all just want to be in a Netflix coming of age film. Like,
you've mentioned that a lot recently. Are you okay?
What are you watching?
5 times in the last few weeks.
Not.
No, you legit have.
Yeah, has it been relevant? I don't know.
I don't think it was, but you
I just
want to
be in a movie, all right? Like, just let me have that.
All right.
Go for it. I'll support you.
Anyone else sweating?
Okay, shall we move on to recommendations? I didn't think this through. I don't have a recommendation.
I never have a fucking
I
recommendation.
doubled up, and I shouldn't have doubled up that one day. All right, Bella, do you have one?
I do.
All right, can you start us off, please?
Okay, so another topic that I'm really passionate about is domestic abuse and preventing it and dealing with it and acknowledging it. So recently I've started reading this phenomenal book. It's called See What You Made Me Do by Jess Hill. And it is focusing on power control and domestic abuse. And rather than focusing on why the woman didn't leave, it's focusing on how the perpetrator thinks and why they do what they do. And it's this whole notion around coercive control. And our definition of domestic violence is flawed in the sense that it shouldn't just be limited to violence, because often it's coercive control and domestic abuse that is a predecessor to 99% of homicides that occur in a domestic relationship. So this is something that I'm extremely passionate about. This book amplifies everything that I think we should all be educated on. It's really focusing on how they think. And there's in chapter 1, if you read anything, read chapter 1, look it up. It's the perpetrator's handbook, and it's that whole see what you made me do. You made me do this. And it makes the victim, whether it be a woman or a man, question their autonomy, their sense of self, and confuse themselves with, maybe I'm the problem. And that absolutely is not the way. So working on seeing if the law and pioneering for the law to change on this, to not necessarily just be domestic violence, but also include coercive control, because it is an issue.
I want to recommend a
So read the
cup.
book.
No.
That's my recommendation.
I was just thinking, like, that is the most serious and, like, genuinely beneficial to the
sorry.
world. No, good. I just am like, I recommended. I was thinking, like, I have nothing good like that to recommend.
No, I genuinely do want to recommend a pudding cup, though.
Yeah, okay. That was a great recommendation. I'm really, really, really
Thanks,
happy.
guys. I'm sorry to make it serious,
No,
but I just think
great.
it's such an important issue.
No, that's
that
way
They can
better.
be serious.
Again.
They're great. We just have never done a serious one.
Have we not? I've done serious ones.
Name one.
Andrew Yang book.
Okay,
Shameless.
true. But, like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Man.
Thanks, guys.
I'm a serious person. Do serious things. I'm going to recommend a vanilla rice pudding cup.
I actually can't believe we made it this far.
Honestly.
I think it was the first time that we sat down to think about the podcast that you gave me one of them, and I fell in love because they're actually really good.
Yeah, they're from Aldi, man. And
You can get them at Woolies too, but they're just
Can
a
you?
different brand. Yeah.
They're the same thing.
Enlighten me.
different
What is
brand,
in
but
them?
Oh, I have sugars.
It's just a rice pudding cup, but like they're actually amazing.
It's a vanilla rice pudding cup, and it's a brand called Food Envy.
Yeah, that's the
and I don't
Aldi
know
one.
why there's just yum. I don't think they're particularly good for you, but they're a great snack. I'm sick of having like Whole Foods and stuff for snacks, so that's like one good little
Treat kind of thing.
Yeah, just a nice treat.
As an anti-vanilla person, I actually back that recommendation.
Vanilla's the best.
But sometimes I'll put it in a bowl and I'll mix chocolate protein powder in with it to make it chocolate flavored.
Heathen.
So good.
Yeah.
Aldi's the way to go, guys.
Yeah, it really
Seriously.
is. Aldi's my fam's like go-to.
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is a book that I read actually a couple of weeks ago. I don't really know why I've sat on this recommendation for a while, but it's called Where the Crawdads Sing.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Have you read it?
I want to read
It's
it. I've picked
real
it up
good.
18 times and I've put it down every
It's
time.
really good.
Where
I've
the
heard
Crawdads Sing?
Where the Crawdads Sing. Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes if you can't
I can't
it's not a real
separate
world.
the words from the syllables in my head.
Crawdad is one word. Crawdad.
Isn't it a bird?
I think it's a type of
It's
bird.
a bird.
But it's based in like some deep Southern America kind of like place. But yes, I've heard that the first 100 pages or so are quite hard to get through. I didn't find that. I thought, okay, it's kind of thriller-y, and I was like reading it. I was like, I'm going to be super scared by this, and I don't want to read it, but I'm going to read it because so far I'm not scared. And I would bring it up to people, and I was like, I'm going to be scared by this, aren't they? And they were like, yeah, you will. And then I got through the whole thing, and I'm like, I'm not scared. Everything except for I don't want to spoil it. If you've read it, come at me because I want to talk about this. But
I'm going to read it.
definitely recommend it. It is so good. I'm pretty sure Reese Witherspoon wants to turn it into a movie, so like read it soon. But I have read a total of 14 books this year, and it is up there, and I think it might be my favorite or my second favorite book I've read this year. So definitely read it. Yeah. That's my recommendation.
I feel like I should recommend something better than a pudding cup, if I'm perfectly honest.
Pudding cup.
I liked it. I
honest.
like the contrast. Domestic
We have this
cup.
beautiful book, another beautiful book, and a pudding cup.
Do you have anything better to recommend?
Nah.
What are you watching? Come on, you're definitely watching a coming of age Netflix show.
I'm not. That's why it probably keeps coming up.
Because you need a coming of age.
I need a new one.
Okay,
I've watched Umbrella
how about
Academy.
we do a guest, not a guest. We need a listener recommendations. If anybody has some good coming of age movies for Sam to watch to get his
but
fill,
here's the thing.
please come and let us know.
It needs to be so specific because
What's your requirements?
Like-
Give the listeners a challenge.
it needs to be not cliche, but that
still
in and
coming of
itself,
age and cliche.
That is
Okay, what's an example of one that you like?
I love the Umbrella Academy, and it's not super coming of
I
agey,
haven't
but it's
seen
just
that.
like,
Can you recommend that?
what? You haven't seen Umbrella Academy?
No.
I got like 10 episodes in.
I watched the whole thing. I couldn't really get into it.
Oh wait, no, then I definitely didn't get that far.
So I remember I watched the first two episodes and I messaged my friend who recommended it to me. I was like, this is just contrived. This is so trite. I hate this. Why would you recommend this to me? And he was like, what are you talking about? This is the best thing ever. Watch one more episode. Watch one more. I was hooked. And then I watched all 2 seasons and it is the best.
What is it about?
So it's about it's based on the comic book written by the guy from My Chemical Romance.
Okay.
That tells you nothing about the story.
A nothing. Is that all you're going to give us?
Yep. Go watch it.
It's
That's
good.
not enticing me at all.
No, sorry. It's a group of dysfunctional. Oh my god, it's so relevant to the episode because it's these kids that were brought up by an eccentric billionaire.
Yes.
Who like they were all born all different places all over the world on like the same day, and then I feel like I don't want to just describe the plot of the thing, but they're all then they're little superheroes, and there's 7 of them, and they grow up in this house and they're taught to fight and whatnot. But the dad is not loving at all. Like he's just completely distant from them. And they all grow up with all these different, I want to say broken personalities, but I feel like we've just discussed why that's bad. But they are not
Faults.
normal people.
They've grown up with faults.
Yes, they have a lot of flaws. Their characters have a lot of flaws, and you watch them grow together throughout the series and become better people because of it.
Nice.
And I feel like that's the thing that drew me to Schitt's Creek, Umbrella Academy, any of those kind of like The Good Place, anything with great character arcs.
Yeah.
Where people come together like a family. I love that. So maybe I shouldn't say a coming of age film or coming of age movie, but more like a broken people that get better.
Okay.
Redemption arcs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Can you quickly just list all the places people can find you?
Okay, so you can find the blog at www.akidwithtwohomes.com. A Kid with Two Homes also has an Instagram. Go follow it. Constant updates there. Subscribe to the blog on the subscription form on the website. I also have a contact form on the website, so please, please, please feel like you can contact me. I'm more than happy to chat with you about absolutely anything and everything. My personal Instagram is Bella Duncan _. Again, you can contact me there. I also have my LinkedIn copied on my website, A Kid with Two Homes website, if you want to know my professional background and kind of where I'm going with my life and, you know, how everything has worked out for me. So please get in contact with me. I am more than happy to chat to you, and let's get the conversation and keep it going.
Nice.
Because it's important.
All of that will be linked down below so you can easily find Bella to follow her. Thank you so much for coming on, Bella. I have absolutely loved this conversation. I feel like I know so much more about how to talk about it and how to empathize. And I have loved reading your blog posts. They've really been super informative. I think you're doing an amazing, amazing job of providing that kind of information for that gap in the market. And I'm super grateful that you came on today.
Yeah, and I think it's so great that even like Emily, you said that you haven't gone through something like that, but you can still get so much out of the blog. So everyone go check it out. It's been so great to have you on here, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's been absolutely awesome, and I love what you guys are doing.
Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can subscribe, leave us a review, follow us on Instagram, show us where you're listening by posting and tagging us on Instagram. We also have a Patreon account, and you can subscribe there and support us if you'd like.
Also, the music is by The Vinyl Press, and you can find them on Instagram at The Vinyl Press.
Yeah, and send us any problems that you have. We want to solve them for you. Woo!